After the Persian, the Greeks were the second invaders who invaded India in the 4th century BCE. Little information is available about Alexander's childhood except for his close attachment to his mother and that Aristotle played the role of his instructor between 343 and 341 BC. His father's name was Philip and his mother's name was Olympus. He was born in Pella. Alexander rose to throne under doubtful conditions. Philip, the founder of the Macedonian Empire, had left Alexander's mother and married another woman shortly before his death. It is told that Philip was murdered by one of his kinsmen. But whatever his role in his father's death, Alexander either killed or expelled his rivals to get his throne. Alexander was this kind of person, a restless soul, never satisfied with what he had, always longing for more. He had immense thirst for knowledge, amazed at the great sight of the world. His face showed zeal and strength. He was impulsive but had a fervent will to win. He wanted to expand his horizons and enjoy his life to the fullest. He was a very difficult person, a combination of light and shadows, impulsiveness and calm, self-centeredness and an intense need to be loved, accusable vices and unbelievable virtues. During the historic span of 32 years, he conquered Persia, brought about a revolution in Greece, extended his power and influence up to the Indus Valley, and consequently was responsible in spreading Western culture in the East. Alexander's conquest was a major part of Western history, but his entry into India for a short while brought dramatic changes here. Alexander's conquests. In the 4th century BC, it was at last possible to give a more or less connected account of a short period in the history of India, or at least of the Indus Valley. This we owe to the classical records of Alexander's Indian campaign. All Greece was taught to fear and respect Alexander. He had imbibed the idea that Herculean blood was flowing through his veins and therefore he was fit to conquer the world. Thus, having brought his own house into order, he resumed his father's war against Persia. In 334 BC, Alexander led 34,000 troops across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. By 333, he had conquered Syria. 3 years later, he defeated Darius III of Persia and occupied the Persian capital of Persepolis. Alexander's invasion of India. Having defeated the Persian ruler, he crossed the Hindu Kush mountains and strengthened his position in Kabul. He captured the fortress of Masaga and Ormus. Alexander moved through the dense jungles of Ohind. Then, having crossed the Indus River, he secured the help of Ambi, king of Takshila, and marched to Jhelum. The greatest of Alexander's battles in India was against Porus, one of the most powerful Indian leaders, at the river Hydaspes in July 326 BCE. Alexander's army crossed the heavily defended river in dramatic fashion during a violent thunderstorm to meet Porus's forces. The Parvan king, with an army of 30,000 soldiers, horses and elephants, provided fierce resistance. But the Indians were defeated in a fierce battle, even though they fought with elephants, which the Macedonians had never before seen. Alexander captured Porus and, like the other local rulers he had defeated, allowed him to continue to govern his territory. When Alexander asked Porus to bow, the latter answered, "Act like a king." Impressed with the young Puru's efforts, he gave him back his kingdom. Alexander even subdued an independent province and granted it to Porus as a gift. Alexander had moved further. He wished to capture the Ganges Valley but was stopped by his troops. In 325 BC, his troops threatened to mutiny. They demanded that Alexander allowed them to return to Macedonia. So, with a heavy heart, Alexander retraced his steps to Jhelum and brought his army back to Babylon in 324 BC. Apparently, he had planned to organize a new army which would not force him to depend on the questionable loyalty of his Macedonian troops. On his way back to Babylon, he had to undergo terrible sufferings in the deserts of Baluchistan. He was severely wounded while storming one of the citadels of a tribe of Malwas. Alexander died of fever in 323 BC, not long after his return to Babylon and much before he was able to put his new plans into action. Impact of Greek invasion on India. Communication between India and Greece increased after Alexander's campaign. Trade received impetus. Alexander followed the Persian route to India and he further extended it to the west. Sea routes were opened. Greek and Oman settlements were seen in both the western and the eastern coast. Greek colonies were established in Afghanistan, Bactria, and northwest frontiers. There was a floating population as a result of the trade routes and trade. Indian philosophy, religion, astronomy, mathematics was influenced by the Greek invasion. There was Greek influence on Indian astrology and on the method of preparing horoscopes. Indians borrowed the concept of 12 signs of zodiac from the Greeks. Another positive influence can be seen in the field of art and architecture. Greek sculpture influenced Indian sculpture, giving rise to the Gandhar school of art. The Kushan ruler Kanishk adopted Mahayanism and invited Bactrian artists to make the images of Buddha. This gave rise to the fine blending of Indian and Greek image sculpture. The Indians adopted the Greek idea of minting well-informed coins of particular shapes. Although the Greeks did not introduce coins here, their coins were designed as works of art. The Sakas, Parthians and others later copied them. In the political field, its impact was felt in the emergence of powerful monarchies like Magad. Centralized Greek system was absorbed and the smaller and weaker kingdoms were merged into the larger ones. Alexander's general Seleucus took control of many of the provinces of Macedonian Empire. He also sent an ambassador called Megasthenes to reside in the court of Mauryas at Patliputra. The ambassador wrote a detailed account of India which was useful for the later classical writers. If you want to know about any other topic, please leave it in the comment box so that we can come back with it. Thank you.